EduVerse PD Podcast, brought to you by ProEd Education Solutions, your on-the-go professional development. Welcome to the EduVerse PD Podcast. In today's episode, Andy and Liz explore an often overlooked question. What happens when we prioritize educator well-being? Drawing on Tahadra Worrell's insightful article, Educator Well-Being, The Missing Link in Learning, featured in EduVerse newsletter, issue 27. In this conversation, they'll discuss why teacher well-being is not a luxury or an afterthought, but a critical foundation for meaningful learning. So, let's join Andy and Liz as they unpack this important conversation.
You know, when you walk into a brand new state-of-the-art building, your eyes pretty much immediately go to the surface details.
Right, yeah, you're looking at the sleek glass windows or, the modern lighting.
Exactly. Or maybe the high-tech security system at the front desk. You are looking at the features, but you almost never stop to think about the concrete foundation that's like buried deep underground.
Mm-hmm. At least not until there's a tremor.
Right, until there's an earthquake, and suddenly that invisible foundation is quite literally the only thing that actually matters. And welcome back to the EduVerse PD podcast. We are looking at the foundation of education itself.
Well, I'm your AI host, Andy.
And I'm your AI expert co-host, Liz. It's wonderful to be back with you. And we are ready to break down the unseen infrastructure of how human beings actually learn.
Our mission is to uncover what is essentially the hidden curriculum in every single school or learning environment.
Yeah, because we spend an enormous amount of time talking about standard tech upgrades, right? Or curriculum reforms or new assessment methods.
Oh, constantly.
But today, we are going beyond those surface features. Yeah. We are pulling from an incredibly insightful piece of work called Educator Well-Being, The Missing Link in Learning.
Right, by Tahadra Worrell. She's an education and personal development practitioner, and her work completely zeroes in on this vital but really overlooked connection between the emotional awareness of the educator and the actual learning outcomes of the child.
Yeah, and we usually think of a teacher's well-being as like a nice bonus, maybe something to address during Teacher Appreciation Week with a box of donuts.
Right, exactly, a gift card or something.
Yeah, but Worrell frames it as the literal bedrock of the classroom. The premise shifts our focus entirely away from those traditional centerpieces of education.
So away from the content, the AI tools, the standardized testing. Because before a student processes a single grammar rule or historical timeline, they are processing something else entirely. They are processing the emotional atmosphere of the room.
I love trying to visualize this. It makes me think of the teacher as an emotional Wi-Fi router.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. Like before a student even attempts to connect to the lesson plan or the activity, their brain is subconsciously pinging the teacher's router.
Mm-hmm. They're checking the network.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're checking, is this network safe? Is the signal steady? Is it an open network where I can participate without getting booted off?
And let's look at the biology making that ping happen. Because we aren't just talking about a vague vibe in the classroom.
Right. It's not just crystals and incense.
No, not at all. This is driven by human nervous systems responding to one another through a strict biological imperative. I mean, deep in our brains, we have mirror neurons, and we have an autonomic nervous system that is constantly scanning our environment for threats. So when a student walks into a room, their nervous system is reading the microexpressions, facial cues, tone of voice, and body language of the adult in charge.
Okay, wait. So if the router is overwhelmed or depleted, say the teacher is just completely burned out, does the student's brain literally interpret that as a threat?
Essentially, yes.
Wow.
The concept is called emotional contagion. Stress, or conversely calm, literally spreads within groups.
Like a virus.
Exactly. If an educator is carrying a really high cognitive or emotional load, that stress is contagious. The students receive a signal of subtle tension. And if a child's brain perceives tension, the amygdala activates.
And that's the part of the brain that handles like the fight or flight response.
Spot on. So the brain literally shifts resources away from the prefrontal cortex, which is what handles complex thought and learning, and it prepares for survival.
Man, that reframes everything. If the kid is in survival mode, they aren't learning algebra.
Not at all.
They are just trying to navigate the emotional minefield of the room.
And this brings us to a really fundamental mechanism of human development called co-regulation.
Co-regulation. Okay, break that down for us.
So children develop their own emotional regulation skills by interacting with regulated adults, especially in early childhood. A child's nervous system essentially borrows stability from the adult's nervous system.
Oh, wow. To manage things like frustration or excitement.
Exactly, or disappointment. They're literally outsourcing their emotional stability to the adult until they can build their own internal systems.
A great scenario to picture this is think of a classroom where a group of students suddenly starts talking loudly during a focused activity. It's a standard disruption.
Very common.
Yeah. And two different teachers might have the exact same goal. They both want order, but their internal emotional states lead to two very different reactions.
Right.
So one teacher who is just running on fumes immediately raises their voice in frustration to overpower the noise.
And by doing so, that teacher basically injects cortisol into the environment. I mean, raising their voice might force temporary behavioral compliance, sure.
Because the kids get scared.
Right. But it completely shuts down the open, relaxed cognitive state that is required for deep learning.
Mm-hmm.
The students are quiet because they are startled, not because they are engaged.
Now picture the second teacher. This teacher actually has the emotional bandwidth to pause. They lower their tone of voice, step into the center of the room, and just calmly redirect the group.
And the outcome there is entirely different. That teacher offers a co-regulating presence.
Mm-hmm.
The students settle down more quickly and more sustainably because the biological signal in the room is one of safety. The students' nervous systems sync up with the calm, grounded state of the adult.
Taking this broad biological concept of co-regulation and applying it to specific high-stakes environments really exposes how fragile this dynamic is.
Oh, absolutely.
And the English language teaching, or ELT, classroom is perhaps the perfect crucible for observing this.
Yes, because learning a new language demands just an immense amount of vulnerability. The adult or adolescent learner is placed in a position where their cognitive maturity far outpaces their ability to express themselves.
Yeah, think about the mechanics of that vulnerability for a second. You are asking a student to speak and perform long before they are actually competent.
Right.
They have to risk mispronouncing words, struggle to find basic vocabulary, and present their complex, sophisticated ideas using this imperfect elementary grammar.
It's exhausting.
I remember trying to order a simple cup of coffee in a foreign country once and just feeling my heart pound in my chest from that tiny low-stakes interaction.
Oh, I've been there.
Now imagine doing that for an hour straight in front of 20 of your peers.
Exactly. And because that vulnerability naturally activates anxiety, the teacher's emotional bandwidth in those specific moments literally makes or breaks the learning process. Well, if a student is wrestling with that anxiety and searching for a word, the way the teacher handles that 10-second pause is everything. If the teacher responds with visible impatience, like a tight smile, a sharp sigh, or a rushed, dismissive correction, the student reads that subtle tension as evaluation.
Or outright rejection.
Exactly.
It's that Wi-Fi router flashing a red light like error, connection unsafe.
Yes. A student in that scenario is going to hesitate to ever try again. Their psychological safety has been compromised.
Mm-hmm.
And when psychological safety drops, the affective filter goes up.
And so they stop taking the linguistic risks necessary to actually acquire the language.
Right. But if the teacher has the bandwidth to just smile, allow a comfortable silence for the attempt, and then gently model the correct pronunciation without judgment, the student stays engaged.
And we have to layer in the realities of diverse and multilingual classrooms here too, right?
Oh, for sure.
Because many of these students might already be navigating massive life transitions. They could be dealing with the trauma of migration, shifting cultural identities, or just the overwhelming task of figuring out who they are in a completely new societal context. So a steady, respectful teacher isn't just a bonus feature of the classroom. In those cases, it is a critical lifeline.
Psychological safety is the absolute prerequisite for fluency development and long-term confidence. Those small, seemingly insignificant micro-interactions are what shape the emotional climate and determine whether a student thrives or just completely withdraws.
Wait, but doesn't this kind of clash with the whole cultural narrative of the selfless teacher?
How do you mean?
Well, you know, if you walk into almost any staff room, you see these motivational posters telling teachers to remember their why or be a hero for the kids.
Oh, right. The martyr complex.
Yeah. We have this deeply ingrained societal idea that teaching is a calling that inherently requires personal sacrifice. So if the teacher's emotional regulation is the literal foundation of student learning, why does the system expect them to just burn themselves out for the greater good?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. The culture of constant positivity is a systemic trap.
A trap, okay.
Yeah, because while those motivational slogans are usually well-intentioned, They enforce an environment where expressing difficulty or exhaustion is viewed as a sign of weakness.
Oh, wow.
Or even worse, a lack of commitment to the students.
So if a teacher is drowning in administrative work and emotionally exhausted, they can't actually ask for help because it looks like they don't care enough.
Right, they suppress their legitimate concerns, and the cost of this toxic positivity is severe burnout.
Which we see all the time.
Exactly. And we often picture burnout as this dramatic exit from the profession, like someone packing up their desk in the middle of the day.
Yeah, the movie version.
Right. But a much more insidious manifestation is emotional withdrawal. You end up with educators who are physically present in the room, but emotionally they have completely checked out as a protective response to prolonged stress.
Man. Physically present, but emotionally checked out. The lesson plan is on the board, the tests are graded, but the human being is gone.
Yes. And when that happens, the relational connection, which we know is the strongest predictor of learning, is severed.
Yeah.
And we see the fallout in the data. A massive chunk of educators hit this burnout wall and leave the profession entirely within their first 5 years. That's from Ingersoll's research. High turnover destroys institutional memory, it fractures community relationships, and severely disrupts student learning trajectories.
There's a cognitive cost to the teacher, too, which is just fascinating.
Right. The OECD reports highlight this as well.
Yeah, because we talk about stress as an emotional feeling, but chronic stress actually physically impairs a teacher's executive functioning.
It does. And executive functioning involves the brain's ability to plan, make complex decisions, regulate impulses, and manage behavior.
All the things you need to teach.
Exactly. When an educator is operating under chronic stress, their prefrontal cortex is compromised. Simply planning a coherent lesson sequence or patiently de-escalating a behavioral issue becomes infinitely more taxing on the brain.
It's like trying to run an app when your phone is at 1% battery.
That is a perfect analogy, because a teacher operating within manageable stress levels actually has the cognitive resources available to deliver thoughtful instruction, adapt on the fly, and provide nuanced feedback. Treating teachers as human beings with finite bandwidth isn't just some moral imperative. It is a hardcore academic and economic necessity.
The diagnosis here is incredibly clear, I think. Relying on a culture of toxic positivity leads to burnout, emotional withdrawal, and impaired cognitive function. And all of that dismantles the foundation of student learning.
Right.
But we have to talk about solutions. Because honestly, it is infuriating when a system's response to structural burnout is like handing out a flyer on mindfulness.
Oh, or suggesting teachers keep a gratitude journal.
Yes. It feels like trying to fix a cracking concrete foundation with a fresh coat of paint.
It really does.
Yeah.
Placing the sole responsibility for well-being on the individual teacher while completely ignoring the conditions causing the stress is entirely insufficient. Moving from superficial self-care to genuine systemic infrastructure requires a multi-level approach.
Okay, so where do we start?
To do that effectively, we first have to acknowledge the cultural nuances at play, because professional identity shifts drastically based on geography and society.
Oh, right. So a teacher's experience of stress in one country might look totally different than in another.
Exactly. In some societies, teachers are viewed as ultimate moral authorities. They hold incredibly high social status.
That sounds nice on the surface.
It does. But that status brings an immense, suffocating pressure to appear flawless. They have to be infinitely wise and consistently composed. They're essentially denied their humanity. The stress comes from the burden of perfection.
Wow. And then on the flip side, you have cultures where educators lack professional respect entirely.
Right. And in those contexts, they face intense scrutiny from parents, endless mandates from policymakers, and a complete lack of agency over their own classrooms. Their stress stems from powerlessness.
So the solution has to fit the problem.
Exactly. Any well-being support must match the actual reality the teacher is facing. A generic wellness seminar won't help a teacher suffering from a lack of professional autonomy, nor will it help a teacher buckling under the pressure of moral perfection.
Knowing that this requires a nuanced, systemic approach, there are actually some brilliant practical insights from the article that we can extract for our listeners to implement today.
Yes, Worrell breaks these down really well.
These strategies are broken down into 3 actionable levels: individual, peer, and institutional. Let's start with the individual level. What is a habit an educator can build into their routine tomorrow?
A simple but highly effective reflective habit is the daily morning prompt. So before stepping into the classroom or logging onto the virtual portal, the educator pauses to ask themselves, what emotional tone am I bringing into my space today?
What emotional tone am I bringing into my space today? I love that. It doesn't magically fix a bad mood, but it forces awareness. You are checking the status of your own Wi-Fi router before you open the network for 50 kids to connect.
Exactly. It creates a crucial buffer, a moment of metacognition to acknowledge your own emotional state so that you don't inadvertently project your own frustration onto a student who is, just struggling with a math problem.
Right.
And then moving from the individual to the peer level, we look at how to rebuild community. A powerful tool here is the professional reflection circle.
How does that actually work in practice? Like, what does that look like?
These are brief, structured, perhaps monthly meetings where colleagues gather to share just two things: one, recent classroom success, and one, current difficulty.
Okay, forcing everyone to share one difficulty is a brilliant way to shatter that toxic positivity we talked about.
It really is.
Because if the veteran teacher who everyone looks up to admits they are struggling to reach a specific student, it normalizes the struggle for the first-year teacher. It says, we all find this hard sometimes.
Which immediately reduces that crushing feeling of isolation.
It dismantles the illusion of the flawless educator. It allows colleagues to exchange practical, battle-tested strategies based on reality rather than just relying on empty motivational rhetoric.
Right.
But, even with individual awareness and peer support, we hit a ceiling without the most crucial layer, which is the institutional level. Right. School leaders and administrators play the deciding role in this ecosystem.
Absolutely. To any school leaders, principals, or district coordinators listening to this deep dive right now, this is where the rubber meets the road. Leaders must treat their staff's emotional bandwidth as a finite, incredibly valuable resource. This means regularly reviewing workload expectations.
Which never happens.
Exactly. When introducing a new initiative or software platform, leaders must actively seek out and remove unnecessary administrative tasks to offset the new demand. If you want your teachers to have the emotional capacity to co-regulate with students, you cannot bury them under endless low-value paperwork or redundant data entry.
Yeah, you can't keep drawing water from a well you refuse to refill. The system has to audit what it is asking of its people.
And institutional support also means protecting teachers' time. It means establishing clear boundaries around communication outside of school hours so that nervous systems actually have the time to return to a baseline of calm before the next school day begins.
Zooming out to look at the whole picture here, we have to fundamentally reframe the narrative of the education profession. Teaching is not a vow of poverty. It is not a martyrdom. Dedication to student success is admirable, but sustained emotional depletion is not ethical. And as the biology shows us, it is certainly not effective for learning.
Right. If the ultimate goal of an education system is to cultivate resilient, curious, and emotionally intelligent students, the adults facilitating that environment must be experiencing those exact same conditions.
We have to view teachers as the central infrastructure of education. It's about ensuring the adults in the room have the emotional capacity to actually connect with the human beings sitting in front of them.
Because that connection is the biological conduit for all cognitive processing. Which brings us to the core thesis of Worrell's work, a really powerful statement that serves as the ultimate key takeaway today.
And what is that?
Teaching begins with the teacher.
Teaching begins with the teacher. It completely flips the traditional top-down model upside down. We can spend billions on tools, technologies, and innovative policies, but all of those things only operate through human relationships. The hidden curriculum is the emotional presence of the educator.
Investing in educator well-being is not a peripheral, feel-good initiative to boost morale. It is one of the most direct, evidence-based strategies available for supporting children's long-term academic and social success.
So I want to pose this question directly to you, the listener. If you were to step into your own workspace, your next team meeting, or even your living room with your family tomorrow, how might your unspoken emotional state be writing the hidden curriculum for everyone around you?
Your nervous system is constantly broadcasting a signal. It's definitely a question worth carrying with you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember to check your own foundation.
What a thought-provoking discussion on reshaping language learning through communication coaching. Thank you, Andy and Liz, for highlighting how we can move from teaching language as knowledge to developing it as a real-life skill. If you'd like to explore more, be sure to read the full article, Language and Communication Coaching, The Future of Language Education by Barnaby Griffiths in EduVerse newsletter, issue 26. Visit our website to download the full issue at www.proed.com.vn/eduverse. And remember, EduVerse is a space for sharing ideas that inspire change. If you have strategies, insights, or experiences to contribute, we'd love to hear from you. Visit our website and become part of our global conversation. Thanks for listening, and we can't wait to welcome you back in our next episode of the EduVerse PD podcast, brought to you by ProEd Education Solutions.